and it's called Coffee Mate Creamer. Now
that goes after the jugular. A lot of people.
Yeah, well, if you put a creamer in your coffee, it's a simple upgrade. You get a better creamer. Last thing here, it has artificial flavors, and the last ingredient says contains a milk derivative. What is this?
Hey guys, it's Matt Johnson, and welcome back to our Rest, Eat, Move podcast. As today is Halloween, we thought the theme for today, podcast number 135, is the spooky things we put in our body. And we're going to try to have some fun. It's not saying that you should never consume some of these things. In many cases, you probably shouldn't, but we're going to try to have some fun. I got my father, Chris Johnson, here. Some of these items he actually made a living delivering, so they're not necessarily things we've never touched, never consumed. But it's kind of comical, some of these ingredients, some of these foods that we call food. So the spooky things we put in our body. How do you feel about this podcast?
Well, this is, back in the day, I used to have all these foods on a table when I was speaking. In fact, you and Kristen kind of convinced me, like, you don't need to have 5 bins going to every speaking event. But people would start looking at it like, that's not good for you. And then I would explain it. And so anyway.
It was your flair.
It was my flair. And so people could actually see it, touch it. And
I actually use some props for one event that I do 6 times a year. So it is fun to use them. People kind of resonate. They're not quite sure what the heck's about to happen.
What's the setting, too? Like you said, use it props. If we're doing a keynote, it's kind of clunky, but sometimes when you have them, like when we have them here in our space, it's nice to have these props because then they can actually see it and help speed up some of the thoughts that they have and beliefs.
And it's not telling people that they're idiots or fools for putting this in their body, but you got to just have some awareness sometimes, and you'll find out pretty quickly in this podcast, some of this stuff is common sense, but when it becomes everyday habits, when you're marketed it every single day, when it becomes the normal thing to reach for some of these things, we just kind of lose our self-awareness of what's spooky and what's not spooky.
Well, and I think the other thing too, everybody will know when they're either watching or listening, they've heard of these products before.
Oh yeah,
they've tried and I've eaten everything on this table, so I can't say that. Well, not everything, but pretty much most everything I've kind of grew up on. So, and then the last thing is we really want you to understand that a calorie does not equal a calorie. And so we'll get into that as we go today. But yeah, we're not trying to say we've never touched these before. I've had my fair share of some of these things, and we'll get into that as we go.
So I thought what we could do, because the list of spooky things we put in our body, I mean, what's a typical grocery store have from SKUs?
Oh, it's thousands
50,
and thousands.
000,
Yeah, it's
100,000.
thousands and thousands of SKUs.
So we're going to do top 10 spookiest foods that we put in our body, spookiest things we put in our body, because some of these you can't call food. And we're kind of going to go back and forth. I have some, he has some. And we're going to start with number 10. So we're going to work to number 1, and number 1 is going to be the worst thing we can put in our body. Some of these, it was a kind of a push. So there's no scientific reason for these other than just coming up with the top 10, whether it's the most common and most spooky things. So I'm going to start with number 10, which are Pop-Tarts. And when I look at a Pop-Tart, they got the beautiful packaging. They try to attract you. They got the s'more flavor, the blueberry flavor, the sprinkles, all these things. And trust me, I like Pop-Tarts. But when you look at these ingredients, I mean, flip it over, there's 50-plus ingredients. Most of these things are not food. It's B12, B11.
Which one do you have there?
This is a frosted blueberry.
Does it have blueberries in it?
It has dried blueberries, dried grapes, dried apples. I'm not sure.
Why does it have grapes and apples when it's blueberry?
Somehow makes that jelly. I don't know what those sprinkles are.
It's a cheaper sweetener.
Caramel color, cornstarch, red 40, blue 2, blue 1, turmeric extract.
Is that what makes it blue? Is the blue?
Corn syrup, high fructose, TBHQ, which you'll find in almost anything that we're talking about today, which is a kind of a preservative.
Kind of?
It's an antioxidant, but that's a bad word for it because it's not a healthy antioxidant.
What would happen to that blueberry Pop-Tart if you left it out for a while?
Yeah, it's going to have a pretty long shelf life. And so number 10, Pop-Tarts. My kids like Pop-Tarts. I like Pop-Tarts. There's much better versions of a Pop-Tart with better ingredients. Not saying that you are eating it for a health item, but just making simple upgrades on a better Pop-Tart or a better breakfast. I mean, what's a Pop-Tart for? Usually for a breakfast out the door, on the go. Again, you put that in the toaster, get that warm, gooey filling.
But there's better versions of a type of a Pop-Tart.
Yeah, and you got a Nutri-Grain bar over there. These are the same types of things. They're meant to last forever. They're meant to be gooey and oozy and looking very pleasant to the eye.
Marketing's incredible.
Number 10 is Pop-Tarts.
What's all right, I have number 9. So I used to sell this stuff. I worked at Frito-Lay. Yep, 6.5 years when I was going to grad school. And the number one selling chip in the world today is the Dorito. So again,
which color, red or blue?
It's definitely the red. You got the Cool Ranch, was the blue, and you got Taco, and you got. I can tell you all of them.
How'd the tacos sell?
The tacos would sell pretty good at certain times of the year, but then when they came out with the Cool Ranch, that was a big deal. And then obviously this is the traditional one.
I think I'm more of a Cool Ranch.
Now you have to know that this is selling a lot because it's advertised in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they got some profit.
So there's a little profit here. But if you looked at the ingredients, the first ingredient is corn, followed by vegetable oil, and then it has maltodextrin. It has monosodium glutamate. It has.
Did you get a PhD to sell these things? Because what if someone said, "Well, what's in it?"
Well, sometimes I would tell them not to eat it. I'd hear somebody talking about they have this and this and this, and I was in grad school, and I'm telling them, well, you probably shouldn't eat that because most people thought, well, it has no cholesterol. Well, cholesterol comes from an animal product. I'll finish up with this. So now it has many, many colors. Yellow 6, yellow 5, and red 40. So that, and then you got Cheez-Its. I mean, I've had a fair amount of Cheez-Its.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed in the Cheez-It when I was looking at the ingredients again is that, that item THBQ, TBHQ, and so that's a antioxidant to keep the fats stable longer.
Yeah, so what it does is they take a soybean or a palm oil,
mix it together.
Yeah, and then it creates...
So it won't go rancid.
Yeah, so it goes rancid. It keeps it forever, and that's why it makes it nice and soft and gooey and
so when you're like, what's that unique flavor?
Yeah. So again, back to if you like tortilla chip, you can get simple 3 ingredients, and this one has probably close to 50 ingredients. So and the same thing goes here. You're just trying to upgrade it over time. But, with football season here, people are doing a lot of this. Just start to upgrade, but just more aware. You can't say you can't ever eat these, but it made into our top 10 list.
Tell the listeners, as you worked in the grocery store, where would they put Doritos in the shelf?
Well, all the grocery stores are set up the same way. Your best seller is always number one. So at Frito-Lay, the number one selling chip was a Dorito on one end, and the other best selling chip was a Ruffle on the other. And then they would bring everything, sandwich the Munchos and Funyuns. If you go to the beer aisle, you're going to have Bud Light on one end. You're going to have the, same thing with Coke. You're going to have, Diet Coke on one end and, whatever it is. So when you go to the grocery store next time, check that out. The big big companies, they'll have always their best selling items on each end to help you suck you into those aisles. And again, all your good stuff's around the perimeter of the store, not in the middle of the store.
All right, so number 8's for me. I'm going to talk about soda pop beverages. I have Crystal Light, some of these additives. I got Gatorade. And so one of the things that stood out for me is if you just look at some of these things, what do you notice without needing your glasses on? Because he needs his glasses on to read the ingredients. But what do you notice without your glasses?
Well, there's nothing natural looking at those colors. I mean,
so they glow in the dark.
What kind of it glows in the dark?
And again, it's very stimulating. So you got this neon greenish Mountain Dew, obviously thinking high energy, 290 calories, by the way. A calorie doesn't equal a calorie, but this has 77 grams of sugar.
So if you took that and just pulled out white sugar, you would just see like a half a cup at the bottom of that container.
Yeah. Erythrobic acid. Is that something you got in the aisle? So that's, those are other things. I see a lot of kids, this is the number one thing they're drinking. Not water, not even pop. They're just sipping on this Gatorade all day. And
again, you're setting up some lifestyle habits that get into, early adulthood and on and on. I hear this all the time.
But if you start to drink this a lot, your taste buds are going to be so sensitive to wanting that sugar. And so, it glows in the dark.
Let's stop just for a second. You just hit it right on the head. When you consume a Mountain Dew and a Pop-Tart for breakfast, you're basically destroying your taste buds. And then if you're starting eating cleaner and you've ever put that stuff in your mouth, you're like, holy cow, what the heck is this? So that's definitely, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's a slow drip.
Yeah, so then the other question is, well, is diet soda is better? So the diet soda has 0 calories. Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Coke, is going to have 250 plus calories. This has 0. No sugar, no calories. Why is this bad for you? You look at the ingredients. You got caramel color, aspartame, phosphoric acid, which is the carbonation, citric acid, and then they add the caffeine. So it's just not food. So when we're talking about the spooky foods or the spooky items, this is not food, and it becomes very addictive. It becomes something that's going to start to make your body more acidic. You're going to start to have other issues down the road. So beverages are a big deal. I'm not saying you never should have a diet soda. Maybe like, diet soda once in a while, or you like some of these, a Coke, going to the movie, or root beer. Both me and you like a root beer. But if we're going to do it, we're going to enjoy it. We'll try to do it less often. But one of the big things I'm seeing a lot of are some of these.
Let's stop for a second here. So how does a Diet Coke make you gain weight?
Yeah, because it's 0 calories, right? No sugar.
So how does it make you gain weight?
Because it's going to start to skew your pH. And when it
skews the pH, what's it doing?
It leaches out minerals. And one of the minerals is a mineral called iodine. And iodine is the mineral to support your thyroid. Thyroid's going to regulate your metabolism. You start to see how something as innocent as saying, I'm going to have this Crystal Light in my water, or this Diet Coke in the afternoon, and I do 3, 4, 5 of them, and now I gain some weight. Now I can't lose weight. Now I'm on Synthroid or some type of thyroid medication. It's not that the food you're looking at and saying, okay, it has no calories, it should be good for me, it should be bad for me. It's what's in it. That's why we're talking about the spooky items we put in our body. It's really looking at these ingredients. It's really looking at what is it? What makes it blue? What makes it green? What makes it pink? What makes it sweet? What makes it salty? These are the questions. And so diet soda leaches out iodine. Iodine supports your thyroid. No, it doesn't have any calories. But we see a lot of people gain a ton of weight, can't lose weight, not sure. Next thing you know, we find out they have 5, 6, 7
And the also, too, is they believe they can't lose the weight anymore.
Or like Coke Zero, or these items that, they have really good marketing. If Coke Zero tastes as good as a Coke, and they tell you it has nothing in it, again, if we're not looking at, okay, why, or thinking through those things, it can be pretty easy to go down that path. One last point, though. Crystal Light, some of these additives to the waters. Listen what's in Crystal Light. 5 calories, so there's no calories, there's no sugar, citric acid, potassium citrate, maltodextrin, calcium phosphate, aspartame. You never want to really put aspartame in your body. I don't see a need to put aspartame in your body. Contains less than 2% of natural artificial flavors. Red 40, blue 1, those combinations make it pink. And so I hear a lot of people say, Matt, I don't like the taste of water. Back to what you're saying, well, if all you're doing is drinking things that are fake, artificial, yeah, water's going to taste probably pretty boring. But I don't know about you, but I love the taste of water. And I don't even know if it's the taste that it quenches thirst. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't like the taste of water. What?
Well, but we better learn how to like the taste.
Well, you could add
lemons, limes.
You could lemons, limes, oranges, cucumbers. There's tons of things.
So that's number 8. Soda pop beverages. We could spend all day on these things. That's my number 8. What's number 7?
I wouldn't say this is really horrendous, but you see it a lot, and that is, the crummy peanut butter. And we have one downstairs that's 23 years old. So this is, to me, what really makes it spooky is people think it's healthy. And so it's in every end cap of every grocery store.
Do you remember when they started to advertise it as healthy? Is that what they started with?
So many people say to me, and then I hear people, I shouldn't eat peanut butter. Well, it's not about peanut butter. It's the quality of the peanut butter. So when you look at what scares, not scares people, but when you look at this and you compare that to real peanut butter, it's going to have exactly the same caloric, fat, nutrient facts identical. But really where it gets sideways here is it now gets into, you take that vegetable oil and partially hydrogenate it, and that's what keeps it the shelf life forever. So as I mentioned downstairs, it's 23 years old. So if you like peanut butter, it's a simple switch. You just move over to real peanut butter and it should have one, possibly two ingredients, and that second ingredient would be like sea salt.
And that's one of my, I would say, I'm not a food snob. If I go to a restaurant, I don't say, what kind of chicken is it? Where did you get it? I'm just at a restaurant to enjoy it. But if I'm going to get a smoothie and the smoothie has peanut butter in it, I ask them every time, what kind of peanut butter is in it? Because it is easy to get a jug of
so when you're at
peanut butter.
When you're at the airport and they make smoothies, they're using this peanut butter.
Right.
I'm not interested because that makes the cell rock hard like an M&M.
So you're trying to do something healthy, and peanut butter can be very healthy. Next thing you know, they use poor quality peanut butter.
Almond butter, cashew butter, peanut butter. Anyway, and the other one here is this Nutri-Grain bar. So if you looked at this thing, looks so amazingly healthy. And so I used to call this the death bar back in the day, and I quit calling it the death bar. But the reason I call it this, because if you looked at the ingredients here, I don't even have enough time to read this ingredient list. And this thing will last forever. And it looks here, it's Nutri-Grain, soft-baked apples and cinnamon. Man, I'm going to feed my kids here. But it starts, this ingredient list is unbelievable. Partially hydrogenated oil. It's got, I can't even.
Spooky.
It's spooky. So the bottom line is, if you can see this, the ingredient list forever. So the reason we're pointing these out is they give people the false hope that these are relatively healthy if you like this kind of thing. And that's why we have our own bars. And you can buy your peanut butter really high quality
with real food.
Real food. So that's that. Those are those two.
All right, we'll speed up a little bit here. So I'm going to number 6, and this is something that I really have a tough time with, is the Velveeta, or the cheese that is liquid. So their slogan's liquid gold. I mean, I love macaroni and cheese. My kids love macaroni and cheese. If you're going to give your kids macaroni and cheese, consume macaroni and cheese, make it something that you feel pretty good about feeding them. Now, it's just about the ingredients. So if you're going to have boxed macaroni and cheese, buy better boxed macaroni and cheese with better ingredients. Again, one of the things that makes this spooky to me, and it's their slogan, is it's liquid. Saturated fat like cheese should not ever be liquid unless it gets heated. If it's liquid, other.
It's not food. Let me share with you one thing. So
you don't have any resin paprika?
So I grew up on that. That's the only cheese we ever had in our house.
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, that was the only cheese. We'd make grilled cheese, but I did a thing a while back at our house, and we live in a nature preserve, and I took that Velveeta cheese in July, and I put it on a white plate. And I can't believe it's butter, and I put it in a white plate. And I took it out, and I put it out in the nature preserve, and there's varmints everywhere. And I come back like a couple days later, and it's completely like a clear blob. The yellow is gone over to the side. I can't believe it's butter sitting there, and not one bug or animal has touched it. Now, if you put real butter out there or anything else, they would gobble it up. But none of the animals or the bugs touched it. Anyway, that was my.
It's not real food.
If it's not real food,
so
the
6,
animals know it.
Velveeta, the liquid gold. That's very spooky to me. What's number 5?
All right, this is really spooky, and it's called Coffee Mate Creamer. Now
that goes after the jugular. A lot of people.
Yeah, well, if you put a creamer in your coffee, It's a simple upgrade. You get a better creamer.
Well, this time of year they got the pumpkin flavor.
Oh
they got
gosh, yeah. But let me just share with you this will outlive everybody that's listening to this podcast.
How can you have a
today.
creamer that doesn't have to be refrigerated?
Well, because the first ingredient is corn syrup solids. What is that? And then we go ahead. And the second ingredient is hydrogenated vegetable oil.
So
and then
trans fat.
It's a
with
trans
sweetener.
fat, makes your cells rock hard. There's no food in this at all.
So it's not really a creamer. It's a sweetener.
It's a sweetener that has this
Cream.
amazingly unhealthy fat that makes and then it's got soybean oil and
Now, we're not great judges. Neither one of us drink coffee. I'm not sure what this does for people's coffee, but if you do like coffee, like Kristen does, Mom they just use real cream.
And one last thing here, it has artificial flavors, and the last ingredient it says contains a milk derivative. What is this? So if you're doing this, ladies and gentlemen,
Very
time to
spooky.
change tomorrow because this is killing
milk
your gut, killing your
derivative.
cells.
All right, so number 4, this is a whole category. I just have a couple things that I bought at a typical drugstore, and these are your anti-inflammatories: ibuprofen, Aleve, Tylenol, Advil. Some of them are going to be different types of anti-inflammatories. You got the non-steroid anti-inflammatory, and then you have Tylenol, which is acetaminophen. Here's the problem here. Most people take this for a headache. Most people take this for a little bit of inflammation or pain. What happens is about approximately 60 million people take an anti-inflammatory daily. What it does is it really starts to wreak havoc on our digestion, our gut health. Motrin, I forgot Motrin, it fell down there. So why this is spooky, if you have pain, inflammation, if you have a headache, I think there's better questions to ask. Now, once in a while, if you had too many cocktails, sprained your ankle, poison ivy, yeah, you might want to take an anti-inflammatory. You had the cracked tooth, and you couldn't see the doctor. You're going to probably need a little bit of pain, probably not the severe stuff, but a little bit of pain meds to manage the pain. If you're taking this on a daily basis, you're going to wreak havoc on the gut. Next thing you know, you're going to have other issues. You're going to have leaky gut. You're going to have digestive problems because you're not going after the source of problems. So why this is spooky to me is because it is everywhere. You go to Costco, you go to Sam's, you got the industrial size. I mean, it looks like things just seem so crazy to me that it's so common to take an anti-inflammatory. You're in the locker room, you're on an airplane, you're with friends. Everybody's got anti-inflammatories in their bags, in their purse, in their carry-ons. If you ask me for an anti-inflammatory, I wouldn't even know where to look in my house. It's there somewhere for an emergency, but not something that I'm looking for on a regular basis.
And I think that's the big point you're making is that it's not that you can't take it for a bee sting or toothache or whatever it might be, but it's so common and nobody thinks twice about it. And then they have all these other issues. The FDA just came out a little while ago talking about baby aspirin that's not good for you.
They made a mistake that
they made a mistake. Well,
recommending it for
this is a mistake. So
60 million people take it every day.
Well, and again, and you see
in the
it
United States.
If you go to a golf course, you see it in the pro shop or the locker room. People are like, "What?" And then you see it in health clubs. We were just at the health club today. Many health clubs just have it there to take if you're going to go out and work out. Like, hey,
like a Tic Tac.
Yeah, it's like a Tic Tac. So we just have to create this awareness that this kills your gut, and that's going to. If your goal is to try to have less inflammation, then you got to look at what things help to lower inflammation. But that ain't it right there.
All right, number 3. What do you have?
I have.
You're going to do 3 and 2.
I got one of my favorites of all time. This is what I grew up on. It's called Miracle Whip.
Grammy would really be disappointed.
Grammy loved Miracle Whip. We never had mayonnaise. We had Miracle Whip. And we would have bologna sandwiches.
So Miracle Whip
white
had
bread.
to come out in the 60s.
Yeah, this came out in the 60s. And it had a little different taste than the traditional mayonnaise. But if you really, this is not food. This is not
It's
food.
Miracle.
It's Miracle whatever. It's a Miracle Whip. Think about that. And it was established in 1933.
Oh, 33.
So let me just read the ingredients real quickly here because you're going to notice real quickly. So the first ingredient of Miracle Whip is water, followed by soybean oil, which is a really crummy processed oil, followed by high fructose corn syrup, vinegar, modified cornstarch. It does have some eggs in there, natural flavoring, potassium sorbate as a preservative, paprika, and dried garlic. So this is not food.
Yeah, miracle.
So if you're putting a spread on something, again, there's so many wonderful options out there.
Mayo,
Avocado
olive oil mayo.
Just get real food. Yeah. So this ain't it.
Okay. What's number 2? You're going to do 3 and 2.
Yeah, so the other one is these, kind of look at what you're talking about, these anti-inflammatories, is this digestive stuff. And this is the same conversation that if you walk down any aisle, this goes crazy. Now, when you think of Alka-Seltzer, this is really popular. They used to have these funny commercials way back in the day.
Plop,
but
plop.
It's Alka, means it's trying to alkalize the body. So I'm trying to change my pH right here. So really unhealthy for the gut.
Well, I noticed in that one now they put an Alka-Seltzer, and maybe they always did. They put an NSAID in there, so they put it.
Oh yeah, this has it.
Yeah. So So you got a headache. You got.
Oh yeah, heartburn, upset stomach,
indigestion,
acid indigestion with headaches and body aches. So it wasn't enough. They just helped. Now they're going to help it all. They're putting it all in there. And again, this is a big list here.
All right.
The other one I really think about this. Why would you ever? And then again, they advertise this as it's good for calcium. It's Tums, and it has a gripper on it. You could grip this thing, and it comes in like 13 different flavors.
Yeah, they now have a green version, which is more natural.
Oh, more natural.
Yeah, the bottle.
But think about this. Why would you ever put this in the body? Again,
if I have those.
What's that?
Do you chew those?
Yeah, these are chewables.
Oh, chewables.
Oh, yeah, and they help you with bone health, right? So this is just crazy that we hook, line, and sinker consume this. And then this thing here, I mean, look at the color. Pepto-Bismol. Look at this thing. 5-symptom release: nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, and diarrhea. Okay? I mean, and the last one was one of my favorites. My grandmother.
You should have dressed up for Halloween with the Pepto-Bismol.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So way back in the day, my grandma loved to watch Lawrence Welk, and the seniors would be always advertising this thing called Phillips Milk of Magnesia. And they would drink this, and the next thing you know, they were smiling. Well, it helps. It helps with constipation. And the ingredient here, it says sugar-free, and it says cramp-free. That's advertised. It doesn't cause cramping. What? It's this high in magnesium, what helps to you.
That's like a turquoise blue, isn't it?
It's craziness, right? So this is the stuff that we see
spooky.
Every day.
Yeah, I think both me and you, we kind of lose our mind when we go down the digestive aisle from any store. I mean, it is colorful. It is vast.
And these are amazingly expensive.
Amazingly expensive. You got the security tops on them.
And if you're saying to yourself, how would I improve my digestion? Might be water with lemon. Might be eating an apple. I mean.
And if you're constipated or have diarrhea, some serious stuff's going on.
If your body is constipated or you're moving it out too quickly, the body's telling you something is out of balance. And why don't we listen to that? Well, I'm going to go and eat a bunch of crap, so I'm going to take this to, you can see how this starts to roll.
Yeah, again, I eat crap, you eat crap, but we pay for it. And so I think part of the gift of eating crap is the symptoms of saying, I don't quite feel good. Because if we felt good eating crap, we'd all eat crap.
And one last thing I'll mention before I'll let you wrap up, but if you are constipated or you're having diarrhea, there's something out of balance. And do not try to disguise that. The first thing I ask all my clients is about the bowls. The bowel, how many bowel movements do you take a day? And then I ask them they're like, nobody's ever asked me that before. That should be one of the number one things. If I took my dog Floyd or you had Boji, that if your dog's not having a regular bowel movement, we got a problem. It's no different than human beings. If it's going out too quickly or staying there too long, we got a problem, and toxicity starts to follow. So do not think this is the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't. I've never consumed any of those things over there. Maybe Pepto-Bismol when I was a kid for some weird reason, have the flu.
I don't think we ever had this in the house.
So I don't know who is consuming those things. But when we do find people that are consuming those things, they have a laundry list of other issues.
And again, this is being consumed by a lot of people. Like you're talking about 60 million people a day are doing, the anti-inflammatories, by the size of the grocery store aisle with this stuff. It's incredible. And as I mentioned earlier, it's very expensive.
All right. So number one, and I would say this is the one thing we're both passionate about, that we should never consume our energy drinks. And I'll tell you the opposite of an energy drink in a second. So I just have two here. There's so many more. And they're all different. Some have sugar, some have caffeine, some have no sugar, some have no caffeine. Some have just taurine, choline, hypertrophic supplements. You got Red Bull here, and that's going to be more of a taurine and caffeine and some other stimulants and sugar. Then you got the 5-Hour Energy that has no sugar, sugar-free. But think about this. 5-Hour Energy has 20,833% of your B12. 20,000% of your B12. Even a Red Bull only has about 80% of your B12. So this thing has 20,000% of your B12. It doesn't even list the calories because it's calorie free. It's just really a supplement, a stimulant. And it's only 1.93 ounce. It's not that much liquid. A Red Bull.
How do they get that much jet fuel in that thing? I mean, that is unbelievable.
That's a good question.
The food scientists are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of a 5-Hour Energy, the business person who discovered this, he discovered it at a convention. He took a sip. He said, "Wow, I feel like I'm bulletproof, for 5 hours." And he figured out a way to bottle it. And so these things have gone crazy. And you see them in kids' hands. I'm at a health club, and I can't help myself. The trainers have them while they're training. I'm at my son's football. He's in first grade playing flag football. The varsity kids are there helping. They all have energy drinks in their hands while they're coaching on the field. It just is it's a crazy time. The marketing is fantastic. Red Bull does some amazing events. I think even events I like to watch. You got Monster, you got Rockstar, you got all of these things. We got to back up and say these are some of the spookiest things we can put in our body. They're stimulating our adrenal glands. That's where we're getting the energy. And then we're overstimulating, and we just need more and more and more. And we've seen young kids with heart attacks. We've seen the brain issues. So these are some of the spookiest foods. And now what we're seeing, both me and you are seeing this because we travel a lot. And a lot of people rely on this when they travel, right? They need that energy. Is the opposite. So if this is a stimulant, we need to reduce the stimulant. That could be called a depressant, or I just call it the opposite of a stimulant. And there's this thing called Dream Water. You like to joke about it. I saw it this week at the hotel. I sent you a picture, but they got such good marketing. The flavor is snoozeberry. So we're going to snooze because we're having the snoozeberry flavor. They use GABA, which is kind of a sedative. They use melatonin because, it helps you fall asleep. And then 5-HTP, which improves the quality of your sleep. And so really good marketing. They call this the Sleep Stat Blend. But when you look at the ingredients, this is not what the body needs for a good night's sleep. You're consuming this because you're using too much of this. You're not consuming sleep water because you're drinking water and eating whole foods.
It's interesting. You said, like, when you go in almost every airport and you go into these convenience type stores, on one side at the cash register you have the energy drinks.
To the moon.
And the other side you have the Dream Water. And if I'm doing too much of this, take this. And if I'm doing too much of this, take this. So, and you said this a while back when you wrote Capacity. Why do how can we not feel like we can get through the day without that?
Without manufacturing energy.
How do we do that?
I mean, 15 years ago, probably, maybe 20 years ago now, I remember seeing the first Red Bull. And I've had a sip of Red Bull in my life. I haven't had more than that. Now, obviously, they make the bombs, and you're at the bar. And so that's what took them off, is they started to mix them with the vodka.
Right.
The Jaeger bombs, the vodka Red Bull. And they just did such a good job marketing the events, the lifestyle. Look at the bottle. It says vitalizes the body and mind.
Yeah, it's got minerals in it. It's got
Gives you
vitamins in there.
Gives you wings.
Yeah,
So
gives you wings. Hey, one other thing here. So when I wrote the Rest Eat Move book, so I went into our local pharmacy, and I was searching for energy drinks, and you got the 5 hour, and you got this and that, but then I saw the 16 hour, and I'm thinking to myself, can you imagine these chemists going, we got to come up with something different.
16 hours.
We can't come up with the 5 hour, 8 hour. Let's do the 16 hour. What is in the 16 hour? I mean, what would that do to your
Yeah, we're not here to tell people what to eat. We're just kind of a guide.
But be aware.
Not telling people how to parent. But I would say if you see your kids, if you see people around you, don't be the beverage police. But the one beverage nobody should really be ever consuming is an energy drink. And I see too many kids drinking these things like they're not a problem. And they're going to cause really a lot of problems.
So let's just touch on that real quickly. So what's the big problem consuming an energy drink? What would be a few of the side effects or the effects? I wouldn't say side effects. What would be the effects?
Well, I would say the biggest one is it's stimulating the body at the adrenal level probably more than you need to stimulate the adrenals. And so if the adrenals get stimulated and then you're still not at the energy you want, they need more stimulation. So you're just going to become dependent. The other thing is it makes the body very acidic. Probably the most acidic thing you can put in the body is an energy drink. It's about 1.5 on a pH scale. And so you're just leaching out all these minerals that help with energy, help with digestion, help with your hormones.
How about gut health?
Gut health, it just destroys your villi because it's so acidic. So just thinking about it, wiping all the good stuff out.
Would that help your sleep?
No, and then you're overstimulated. You're really going to impact the sleep. And then the last one is the brain. All these neurotransmitters, all these regulators, you're going to just be up and down. You're
Is that
killing
going to be
serotonin.
good for anxiety?
Not good for anxiety. And so we got to step back. We got to say, why are we low on energy? I think energy is our most precious commodity. You've heard us talk about that. But you don't get energy from a box, a bag, a drink. You get it from eating real food, having good quality rest, and also how you kind of regulate the adrenals in the nervous system so you don't become dependent on it. And so these are our top 10 spooky foods. There's so many other spooky foods, but there's so many healthy foods that taste amazing, that can please the senses, that look like they taste good. But we got to kind of sometimes step back and say, let's try to not put some of the spooky stuff in our body. We wish everybody a happy Halloween. We know that this can be a fun time. Maybe that 20% in the 80-20, we can utilize that a little bit more. But I'm getting hungry. Let's go have some liquid gold. Let's throw back a couple of these beverages. And thanks for joining us. If you need anything at any time, any questions, you want to send us some spooky foods that you found, we'd love to take a look at them. Until next time, we'll see you and try to eliminate some of the spookiness.